Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Is it someone enter the class? Okay. So, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh and very good morning. So today we will continue with topic social problems in the community. Can I make it this short so I can see who's coming into my class? Okay. So can you, is it okay if I use this way?
Still okay.
Is it too small? Because I cannot see if I put in full screen, I cannot see who's coming, who's enter my class. Huh? Is it okay? Is it all small?
Setakat ni okey lagi, doktor.
Because you see,
Still okay.
because your friend keep on entering the class. Okay. So today we will discuss on social problems in the community. So the learning outcome at the end of my class, you should be able to define the social problems, discuss the common social problems in the community, discuss the role of family and managing social problems, um, discuss the roles of community health nurse and health professionals in the management of social problems in the community. Okay. So definition of social problems. Okay. What is the social problem? A social problem is a problem which is created by the people of society, and it is a condition that at least some people in a community view as being undesirable. Okay. And when enough people in a society agree that a condition exists that threaten the quality of their life and their most cherished values, and they also agree that something should be done to remedy the condition. So this definition, when someone or the community feel threatened by someone or any groups or one group or any group of people, and something should be done to solve the problem. Okay. So what are the factor leading to social problems? Okay. First, the globalization, urbanization or industrialization. Okay. So urbanization, we can see like in Malaysia, we have so many foreigner either legal or illegal. So when you, for example, like you went to KL, you went to Jalan Masjid India, for example. It's like you are in India. It's like you are and then you went to Sungai Besi, apa? Pekan Sungai Besi, for example. It's like you are in Jakarta. So because the globalization, the urbanization, and also because of Malaysia, we have many industry, we have many factories. So that's why the urbanization and globalization happen in Malaysia. So this globalization leads to the social problems in our country. The technology advancement. So here the very common social problems, the technology advancement. Because since now we are still in MCO, movement control order, and certain places PKPB or PKB P. Uh, so all uh, have to stay at home. Okay? So then, because of the technology advancement, and we cannot go anywhere, so we use the all the social media, we use the all the technology games. So it also leads to the social problems. Okay, and then social chaos. This one among teenagers, lack of guidance, social culture conflict, and also social stress. So this happen in among our teenagers. Okay, social poverty, lack of access to service like education, market, healthcare. Individual who tend to fulfill their material needs through improper ways and means frequents the root cause of most of the social problem. So poverty. So this factor usually for the rural area or the community that have low income, family income. So these factors lead to the social problems. Okay, effect of globalization in Malaysia. So the social problems in Malaysia eliminate moral values in each young generation, influence young generation with bad things, and allow bad culture from other countries. So this globalization affect or cause the social problems in our country. Okay. But this one we talk about the young generation, but nowadays still even for the older people also they have a social problem. For example, like uh, what? Apa example? Social problems among older people or young older. Class, can you give example? What is the common social problems among older people or young people in our country? They are very common, very famous. Anyone want try to answer? Okay, so we will discuss in your tutorial. Okay, the common social problems in Malaysia. So you can see here the example of the common social problems. Okay. We have the domestic violence, child abuse, and also all the uh, abuse, all the people being abused. Okay. So we talk about the violence. Okay, violence and the background of the violence, a part of the human experience. Among the leading causes of death worldwide for people aged 15 to 45, and that the impact is high cost for healthcare expenditure. Okay, the statistic of violence from the global view, we can see that 470,000 homicide occur each year. Okay, one in four women and one in men will experience severe physical violence. Okay, so you can see the ratio highest among women compared to men, and 1 in 10 women in US will be raped by an intimate partner in her lifetime. Okay, this one in US, in the US. Nearly half of all women and men in the US will experience psychological aggression by intimate partner. Okay, and 16.9% of women and 8.0 of men will experience sexual violence other than rape by intimate partner. Okay. Definition of violence, okay, the use of physical force so as to injure, abuse, damage, or destroy. Okay, so we talk about the social violence or the violence itself. Uh, is something that they act, they ask, they request as a force, using force that can cause injury, damage, or destroy. Okay, the World Report on Violence and Health 2012 defined the violence as the international use of physical force or power, threaten or actual against oneself, another person, or against a group of community that either results in or has a high likelihood of resulting in injury, death, psychological harm, development, or deprivation. Okay. WHO in 1979 defined the violence, defined domestic violence as the physical, verbal, emotional, psychological, and or a sexual battering of a woman by the intimate partner or spouse. Okay, so from Malaysia context, the term domestic violence or spousal abuse are used interchangeable. Okay, the domestic violence or spousal abuse, ke apa? Uh, in Malay they call kekerasan, kekerasan rumah tangga. So it occurs when a person attempts to control or dominate his or her spouse. Okay, so domestic violence can be uh, for women or for men. So they will be one of the spouse, either wife or husband, try to dominate to another one. Okay, type of violence. Okay, there are three types of violence. Okay, self-directed violence. Okay, interpersonal violence. Okay, from family and intimate partners. Community violence between individuals who are unrelated. Collective violence, okay, social, political, and economic violence. So for collective violence, from politic and economic, so we still this also happen in Malaysia, where the all the politic people they are try to do kekerasan or keganasan, to get using their power, Okay, for self-directed violence, suicidal thought, attempt to suicide or self-abuse. So this one, the type of violence. Okay, mood of violence. So there are four moods for violence. Okay, that you have to remember. One, physical. Okay, through sexual, psychological attack, and deprivation. Okay. Typology of violence. So violence, we have three type: self-directed, interpersonal, and collective. So for self-directed, suicidal, or attempt to suicide or self-abuse, the nature of violence, physical and psychological, and deprivation or neglected. Okay, this the nature of violence for each all the mood of violence. Family or partner, community, and social, politic, economy. Root of violence. Root of violence, individual, relationship, through community or societal. Okay, for individual, usually violence, okay, victim of child maltreatment, psychological or personality disorder, and caused by alcohol or substance abuse, and also history of violence behavior. So sometimes they have experience being the victim and being abused. Okay, relationship, the root of violence, so it can be from poor parenting practices, marital discord, violence, parental conflict, low economic household status, and friend that engage with violence. Okay, community, poverty, high crime levels, high residential mobility, high employment, local illicit drug trade, and situational factors. So the root from for violent from community, it can cause because of poverty. So just like I mentioned, high crime level. So the area that very high social problems, um, high employment. So the the root of violence can be from this area. Okay, and then societal, rapid social change, gender, social and economic inequalities, poverty, weak economic safety, poor rules of law, and cultural norms that support violence. So sometimes societal root for violence, for example, culture norms that support violence. Sometimes the culture at that particular place or that particular area, they support. So they feel like, okay, the man has a right to the man, to the woman. And then for example, some culture, they they will kill the if they have if they have a baby girl, because they think they thought that the baby girl is bring bad luck for for the family. They are happy if they have a baby boy, new baby boy. So this societal also can also as a root of violence. Okay, so far any question?
No.
No. No.
Faham?
Faham?
Okay, good. Okay, this also just like I mentioned, factors of violence lah, or the root of violence, individual level, personality, community, and societal. Uh, so what should do? Hmm? What we should do as a community-ness, as a community, as a society. Eh? So from the general scope, we have a prevention. We have prevention of the violence. Okay, because the most important outcome of focusing on violence and defining it clearly is the potential to more precisely understand its scale, forms, and causes, and to enhance the scope to intervene to prevent its occurrence or to modify its effects. So prevention of violence. Okay. So prevention of violence, we have to focus on the violence and to define it clearly, meaning that we have to understand the root, the factor leading to the violence, who's the victims, who's the abuser. From that we can overcome these social problems. So the prevention activity can be classified by the stage during which prevention takes place. So we have primary, secondary, and tertiary prevention, as well as by its relationship to the population. Either universal, selective, or indicated intervention. So primary prevention of violence aims to stop violence incident occurring. So prevention, primary prevention, the first step we have to aims to stop the violence, to stop this social problem. Okay, because primary prevention is the most effective form of prevention, but most difficult to achieve. Okay, so because to prevent, we have to give awareness, and we have to give awareness, we have to educate our community. Okay, and then policy initiative to address poverty inequity could be classified as primary prevention activities in relation to violence, as could those directed at controlling and the ability of the firearms. Okay, so because the primary prevention related to policy, policy initiative to improve their quality of life, to improve their household income, or to get the same access. So this is quite difficult for us to implement. Okay, primary prevention is often unattractive to politicians because upstream preventive activities are not visible unless they are linked to the to link with a separate provision. So usually it's quite difficult to implement primary prevention if there is no support. So especially this unattractive to politician because they this not um, give impact, or they will not give impact to the politician. So that's why they are not attract to uh, this activity. Okay, sustained nurse home visiting of mother with young children is an evidence-based primary prevention strategy to improve outcome for children and reduce the risk of becoming victim or perpetrators of abuse. Okay, so sustained home visiting, Yeah, during home visit, we will not just focus to that particular patient, but we are looking all the people in the house. Okay, all the people in the house. So from children, so we can see that is it the children being abused by the parents, or the parents, or the if the parents have, for example, malnutrition. So we also need to concern about this, um, about this sign, because maybe because of the parents, or the children being abused by the parents, they didn't give food, they didn't take care of the child. So this also as a point that we can look as our primary prevention. Okay, secondary prevention, the aims to minimize harm once a violent incident has occurred, focusing on immediate responses such as emergency services or treatment for sexual transmitted disease following. So this example for sexual abuse, or the domestic violence or violence. So once we receive the report, or we receive the case at emergency department, so the uh, aims, we have to minimize the harm. Okay? So immediate response. So we have to stop the violence. So we have to continue with the all the emergency services. So when example there is a rape case, so we have to take care, and then to do a police report, to stop, and then to uh, to lodge the police report. So the perpetrator will be the police will take charge for this situation. Okay, for tertiary prevention, so when it happened, when the violence happened, we the secondary prevention, we stop the violence, and then after um, that we continue with the tertiary prevention. So to treat and rehabilitate the victim and perpetrators, okay, approaches focus on long term, because the violence people, they are trauma, um, and then they will take long time to accept or to adopt with the situation, to accept what was happened to them. Okay, from Malaysia setting, okay. So from Malaysia setting, we have One Stop Crisis Center, or SCC. So this center usually at emergency department. This multidisciplinary team uh, under this One Stop Crisis Center. The aims to integrated and comprehensive multi-agency service center to provide holistic approach until rehabilitation phase, care network for the management of OSCC survivors, shall be at 3 levels, and then documentation, examination, and the management of evidence. So when the victim went to the emergency department, they will do all the documentation and examination to manage this victim. So this center and one-stop crisis center will do documentation, examination, and management of the evidence. Okay. So for example, domestic violence, the husband hit the wife. So at this center, they will take pictures and they will keep the evidence for to the police for police report and continue with the investigation. Okay. And then the establish in all emergency and trauma department. So this one-stop crisis center will be under emergency department at selected hospital. Because here in Kuantan we have at HDAA, and but our hospital Susmek we still didn't have this team. Okay. The survivors are seen at the center where all agencies cover to manage them. Okay, so at uh, this center, all the teams, multidisciplinary team, we have a nurse, we have medical doctor, we have a social officer, social welfare officer, we have a police. So the police is not always there, but the team will call police to investigate. So there are three levels. So for the first level, crisis intervention level 1 for initial management. Okay. So when the survivor comes to the hospital, they will go to emergency department. Okay. So we look at the severity, red or yellow zone. Okay. For example, domestic violence, the victims tu datang dengan keadaan yang macam dia dipukul kan, so dia dah cedera parah, so they will go to the red zone lah. So then we do the triage first, then we'll bring to the OSCC, and then we will do the police report, then the police will take consent and advise police report. Okay. So, and then the initial assessment by emergency and trauma medical doctor. So they will do triage lah, triage first, do initial assessment, and then if after that they will refer to the relevant discipline. For example, if a pediatric child abuse, for example, so they will refer to pediatric. And then after receive consent, they will assess assessment and refer to relevant discipline as necessary. Uh, then there will evidence collection, witnessed by police, hand over to the police. The cases, if the victim want to do lodge a police report. If not, then there will be like macam settle macam tu lah. Tapi the victim still we do assessment. If they need to be admitted, then we admit to the ward and then discharge and follow up lah. Okay. Okay. Crisis intervention level 2, we do follow up. Okay, follow up, for example, ONG, follow up, refer to guideline, review all investigation and refer accordingly. Then we refer to medical or infectious disease. Okay, for example, rap cases. Rap cases, they might refer to and also to check for infectious disease like HIV or yeah. So pediatric also you have to follow the guidelines so you can get access to the from KKM website. Okay. And for medical social worker, for example, abuse or abandon. So for age 18, refer with consent. Then they refer to JKM for counselor or NGO to Olo Bureau. Okay, so for example yang apa, yang diorang buang anak semua kan, so social problems lah tu, so they will refer to CKM, okay, and also follow up for psychiatric follow up as necessary lah, because maybe when they do the assessment, the initial assessment, this perpetrator ataupun the ma, apa, pelaku tu they might have psychiatric problems, so then we do follow up for psychiatric. Okay, crisis intervention level 3, rehabilitation. Okay, for survivor, we will continue to look at the social issues, children custody and divorce process. Okay, for example, domestic violence, okay, among husband and wife. So continue for rehab and the children custody. So siapa yang berhak to take care their child, okay. So this one we refer to social welfare department lah, and then the court activities for legal assistant, lawyer, NGO. But some of the after discharge lah, so is it the victim still want to continue uh, to issue the case, they will sue, so the court activities will take place. Okay, um, and then for NGO appointment for counselling, psychological or psychiatrist, and then for level 3 also the treatment. So after we club patient at the emergency department, all the multidisciplinary will be there, and then after club, then we refer to that to that related discipline, and then if they need to be admitted, then we admit, if not they will discharge lah. Okay, so this an example lah, macam mana dekat OSCC, bilik khidmat bersepadu. So there will be rooms to do counselling, to do initial treatment, so all the investigation, okay, blood investigation or urine, so any sample related also will be collected, okay. So then also refer, all CC cases must be referred to counsellor, so to follow up lah for rehab for the 3 level. Okay. The objective of OSCC service, to provide multidisciplinary care of the survivors, identify and manage survivor of domestic violence, sexual assault, child abuse and neglect, ensure the delivery of optimal care and within management for the survivors, and also to ensure appropriate management of medical legal evidence. Okay, so this one we will collaborate with the police. Okay, components of OSCC service. Okay, so domestic violence, sodomy, child abuse and neglect, and also rape and sexual assault. So this one so the rape cases of sexual assault is very common, for women. So but why I highlight the sodomy, sodomy in red color. Why I highlight the sodomy point in red color. Class, are you still here with my
Yes,
my
doctor.
Yes, doctor.
Oh, someone already sleep. Okay. So sodomy. Apa dia sodomy?
Lelaki dengan lelaki.
Hmm. Kan? So sodomy cases will now increase. Right. Dulu kita tak dengar sangat pasal sodomy pasal apa? Sexual luar tabi'i. Right. So among men with a man so sodomy cases now increase. Okay. So for nursing assessment uh, for related to social problems, okay, the emergency and trauma department will be responsible to take care for the OSC cases. So they will include triage, history taking, general physical examination, clinical stabilization, treatment of injuries, and evidence collection. Other than that, object for vagina examination. So for example, they will take specimen or do vagina examination for rape cases for rape case. Um, and then the evidence obtained from emergency department will be managed and handed to the police officer with preservation of chain of evidence. Okay, and then the trauma emergency department coordinate the management of OSCC, include referral to relevant team members lah. Okay. So the analyzing of data, all the history taking, physical examination, investigation and referrals, all will be private and confidential because this is a legal issue or legal case. Eh. Okay. So for physical examination for social problems like domestic violence, a meticulous physical examination should be performed to assess and treat physical injuries and as well as collect evidence. Examine the upper half of her body first, then the lower body. Give count to her cover herself. This one the ni lah domestic violence or the right case. Okay, then record the anatomical position of the wound. For example, if there is injury or there is wound, so they will record the position of the wound, laceration, bite marks, apa semua lah, and use accepted terminology. Because this evidence, there will be evidence. Also they have to measure the dimension of the wound and the shape of the wound. Okay, for example, the size 2 inch, 2 cm ke 1 cm ke, semua they will need to assess, need to document properly, or accurately. Okay. If the person present more than 72 hours after the rape, the amount and type of evidence that can be collected will be depend on the situation. Okay, but if the rape case, so suppose when happen, immediately we have to go to hospital, to emergency department, and all the investigation and the evidence can be collected. But if after 72 hours, it depends what is the evidence that can be collected. For example, after 72 hours dia dah mandi, dah siap semua, so sometimes you cannot get the specimen from vagina. Katalah if there is eye money, kalau kena rap kita nak ambil apa specimen dekat vagina tu, kalau dia dah mandi dah semua mungkin dah tak ada dah evidence tu, for example. So it might difficult for the police to get evidence and to to catch the ni lah perpetrator ni kan. Okay, management. So depends on the situation lah. So if the medical treatment initiated related to the to treat the injury or the ni lah, for example to do dressing or to give painkiller, fracture, then we go to do POP, so the medical management related to the situation, to the patient condition. Okay. Physical examination describe features of general physical injuries. So this how the detailed physical examination will be done at OSCC. So the accepted terminology, abrasion, contusion, side anatomical side of wound, color, or they have to document the shape and age. So very detailed. Chain of evidence. All specimen collected during the examination should be properly labeled and sealed and packed. Is to documented, signed, witness, and dated. So the chain of evidence tu is very important lah, very important, private and confidential. So all the specimen tu dia memang have to label, seal and pack, and then the put date, all the detail must be accurate. And then transport the delivery, or apa tu, all the specimen to the laboratory by the police officer. So diorang yang hantar. Biasanya kita akan suruh je pembantu hospital hantar specimen kan. But for these cases, police have to bring, to send the specimen. Because we don't want that katalah bila nak suruh pembantu hospital hantar, and then tiba-tiba je ada orang tukar specimen tu. So then the evidence will be not accurate lah. So that's why at OSCC there is multidisciplinary team that involve police, medical doctor, nurses, and all the counselor lah. Okay. This one I think you can read through. Forensic issues and rap. Okay. So for children violence, there is form to do assessment, kepemmintaan untuk pemeriksaan polis bagi orang yang terlibat dalam kes polis. Okay. Boleh? Any question so far?
Doktor nak tanya.
Okay.
Pertama sekali, kalau contoh ada orang tu dia memang ada violence, maksudnya dia memang ada problem ni, and then kalau dia rasa dia tak perlukan help, maksudnya sebenarnya nak kena ke tempat tu sendiri adalah mangsa tu sendiri kan?
Mangsa tu sendiri, ataupun ada macam for example dia tak nak pergi kan, tapi family members atau friends tu boleh bawa pergi.
Tapi tak boleh lah macam orang lain report untuk pihak dia, tak boleh
Boleh report polis, lepas tu polis akan investigate lah.
Tapi anda kata dah investigate and then macam kita tahu dia ada abuse tau. Macam orang keliling tahu tapi dia sendiri yang tak nak. Dia kata dia tak ada masalah. Maksudnya dia deny lah. So orang macam tu kita memang tak boleh nak tolong ke macam mana?
Um, tak, kita orang macam tu kita kena tolong. So kita buat police report and then police will do investigate and then they will bring to OACC lah. So sama ada apa dibawa sendiri secara willing to go by their own ataupun dibawa oleh polis lah. So for example macam katalah dia abuse, dia tak nak orang tahu kan dia abuse. So we can still do a police report, then polis akan datang buat investigation. So walaupun dia deny, kita akan ada all the multidisciplinary kan. So kita ada polis, kita ada counselor, kita ada psychiatrist. So for example in that case, so the case will be referred to psychiatric lah.
Okay, satu lagi doktor. Untuk kan tadi doktor cakap untuk kes polis yang kena isi form ni kan. Bukan ke kalau social problem ni semua terlibat dalam kes polis ke tak?
Ya, memang semuanya, tapi kalau katakan dia tak pergi dekat emergency ni, macam kita nak tunjukkan OACC punya function lah kat situ. Tapi kalau katakan dia ada buat police report, so dia akan jadi police case lah. Kalau katakan contohnya kena rap dekat kampung contoh. Tapi dia tak report tak apa, so kita tak tahu benda tu. Unless sama ada dia report ataupun ada orang lain yang report, kata dia beritahu kat kita, dia beritahu tapi dia tak nak report kan, macam tu.
Okay. Right.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Doktor,
Okay. Nurul.
doktor,
Ya.
kiranya kalau kita report dekat polis, polis tak refer pada OSCC tu lah. Dia jadi kes polis tu lah.
Tak, dia okay. Kalau katakan even though you pergi dekat police report, you report, so case katalah case rap so dia still akan bawa lah, dia akan panggil OACC ni untuk buat investigation. So medical doctor still akan, you still kena pergi hospital lah. Kena pergi hospital, pergi OACC tu untuk buat pemeriksaan dan ambil specimens related.
Oh, okay, faham. Thank you, doktor.
Kan? Sebab ada yang katalah dia kena rape, dia terus pergi hospital, kan? So bila pergi hospital, so OACC ni dia di multidisciplinary, dia akan panggil panggil polis, counselor, JKM officer semualah, social welfare kan masa tu. Bukan masa yang sama lah dia panggil, dia akan buat investigation dulu kan, dia buat initial assessment semua tu. So tapi lepas dia buat ni, lepas tu ambil sampel, lepas tu dia will do counselling, panggil counselor macam tu. Tapi it's a multidisciplinary team lah will take in charge. Okay, because
Okay, thank you,
social
doktor.
problems ni dia memang social problems, they will involve multidisciplinary. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, continue so this one permintaan borang ni lah, borang permintaan untuk pemeriksaan doktor bagi orang yang terlibat dalam kes polis, pengemukan kanak-kanak ke hadapan pegawai. So this one also ada form-form yang berkenaan lah, specific form for the police cases. Okay. So pemberitahuan oleh pegawai perubatan atau pemberitahuan berdaftar, okay, to inform social welfare. So for example, the child abuse ataupun kes-kes pembuangan bayi kan, baby abandon ni, so they will refer the case to Department of Social Welfare pula. Okay. So after they do the investigation, the assessment, so for example, abuse while in the apa investigation process, so the children will be under JKM. So sepanjang tempoh untuk dia orang buat investigation kan, macam abuse ke apa, so anak-anak ni akan diletak pula di bawah jagaan Jabatan Kebajikan Masyarakat. Okay, to in order to save the victim lah. Ni tadi I dah terangkan lah so dia ikut yang diagram tadi. Okay, domestic violence for non-critical walk-in brought by police, referred by other health facilities through MECC, identified by Dr. Transmission. Okay, semi-critical occupied by police through emergency department okay, list dia ni lah. Okay, for common adolescent social problems, okay, juvenile delinquency, gangsterism, vandalism, cyberbullying and bullying. So I think you have assignment to do video presentation, right?
Yes.
Okay, so these are the example that maybe you can take for your assignment. So have you start your assignment?
Yes.
So you all buat apa?
Dah.
Okay.
Saya buat abortion.
Okay, teenager pregnancy, or unwanted pregnancy, abortion among teenager, suicide, yang ni apa, mak rempit, but now because of MCO, I think the mak rempit cases reduce, right? Because all have to stay at home. Okay, alcoholic, drug abuse, So the selected nursing diagnosis, so based on the physical examination, and then objective and subjective nursing diagnosis. Okay. This one, the nursing diagnosis, you can go through. So acute pain related to physical abuse, anxiety, impact family functioning, post-trauma syndrome related physical or psychological for abuse. So these are the nursing diagnosis we can use to plan our nursing management. Okay. Selected collaborative problems for violence related to morbidity and mortality, economic loss, social disruption, diminish quality of life, and also loss of potential, family disruption, and psychological trauma. All these related to violence. Impact of child abuse and neglect, okay, physical alignment, mental health effect and social disruption. Okay, physical can impact, to give impact for injury, trauma, pain. For mental effect, psychological stress, depression, substance abuse, loss of esteem and shame and death, social destruction, increased child and infant mortality, diminish or unrealized potential, loss of social involvement, disruption, demand on health and social services. Okay, impact on of domestic violence. Okay, so medical problems related to social problems increase direct and indirect medical costs. Okay, because the short and long term effect on physical, sexual, and mental. So injury, homicide, suicide, unintended pregnancy, post-traumatic stress, anxiety, intimate partner violence, or increased smoking, drug and alcohol misuse, risky sexual behavior, and then other medical problems. All these problems actually incur the direct and indirect costs to treat for these problems. So for preventive measure, roles in managing the social problems from individuals, community, and family. Because the effective violence mitigation strategy will reduce the violence cases by the poverty reductions, interpersonal skill training, to increase the education, to increase awareness and community support. Good community support and social involvement will reduce the violence cases. However, it's not easy to implement all these strategy. So this strategy will be implemented with the multidisciplinary and the support from society and the community itself. Okay, public health or health system approach to violence. Okay, surveillance, what is the problems? So define the violence problems to systematic data collection. So we have to do surveillance to do the prevalence of the problems. Then second strategy to identify risk and protection, protective factor. So what are the causes? So we have to by conduct research to find out why violence occur and who is affected. And then the third strategy to develop and evaluate the intervention, what works and for whom. Okay, so this strategy, the healthcare system, the design and implement, and also evaluate the strategy to to assess for the effectiveness of the strategy they have implemented. Okay, and then the implementation, scaling up effective policy and program. Scale up effective and promising intervention and evaluate the impact and the cost effectiveness. So the strategy they will look not just to the impact but also the cost, because for example domestic or rape cases, unwanted pregnancy, abortion among teenagers. So when they have these problems, these social problems, for example, unwanted pregnancy, they happen because rape case. So when this happen to that teenager, so the government will look at where we have to put this victim to save this and uh, to follow up and to do rehab and to continue with counseling, because we know that these cases the victim will have trauma. eh? They might have trauma for the whole their life. So uh, we have to have the place to take care this victim. So for example JKM. So JKM, when we put this victim under JKM supervision, dia will incur cost. Cost untuk nak jaga dia, untuk nak jaga mangsa baby, that the unwanted baby, um, and then counseling. So all these implementation will cost, will incur cost. Okay. So you will continue you will continue this topic from your presentation lah. So I think we have finished the class now at 10. Okay, any question?
Doktor, saya ada soalan. Terbuat pula. Soalan saya, kes-kes violent ni dia masuk mahkamah ke?
If they do police report, dia akan jadi court case lah. Kalau
Jadi, kita satu-satu.
okay,
Contoh kalau jadi kes mahkamah, pihak mangsa kena hire lawyer ke? Oh, jadi kalau orang tu macam mangsa tu bukanlah orang yang mampu untuk hire lawyer, Jabatan Kebajikan akan bantu ke?
dia tengok cases. Tengok cases, sebab tak yang lawyer case ni biasanya memang kita kena we have to hire by own.
Faham, doktor. Terima kasih.
That's why sometimes, because you know that to hire a lawyer very expensive, and the case might take longer for not just 1 year. Kadang-kadang kita tengok case yang macam, ingat tak kisah adik Nurin Jaslina tu, kan?
Ingat.
Case
Umur lebih kurang kita orang.
sexual abuse and victim dia dibunuh kan. So case tu panjang, lama, because they need to do investigation, all the evidence semua kan. So case tu panjang, dan bila case tu panjang dia akan drag cost jugalah. So that's why sometimes people, they are not effort they are not afford to pay for the lawyer. So dia macam case tu dia settle luar mahkamah je lah, macam tu kan. Contohnya macam case case contohnya case rape ke kan. So dia orang just lepas macam tu je lah, settle luar mahkamah macam tu.